He looked at me like I didn't belong there, like I was a stranger in my own skin, like the world I stepped into wasn't made for people like me. I could see it in his eyes, the arrogance, the judgment, the quiet disgust. All I wanted was to buy a home, but to him, I was just another wrong address in a nice neighborhood. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know what I built. He didn't know that by tomorrow he'd be packing his things and walking out of the very company I owned. The real estate office was bright, modern, polished, but the energy, cold. I walked in wearing a black turtleneck, clean jeans and a tailored coat. Nothing flashy, but I wasn't trying to impress anyone. "Can I help you?" The voice was sharp, like I'd interrupted something important. I turned. There he was, Derek. Slicked back hair, tailored navy suit, gold cufflinks, but it wasn't what he wore. It was how he wore it, like he owned the air in the room. "Yeah," I said. "I'm looking to buy a home in the area. Thought I'd start here." He scanned me from head to toe, not with curiosity, with suspicion. He muttered. "Do you have a pre-approval, or are you just browsing?" I smiled politely. "I have a pre-approval, and cash." His lips tightened. "Well, these homes are quite competitive, especially in this neighborhood. Maybe you'd like to look at something further south?" I knew what he meant. Further south didn't mean cheaper, it meant away from here. I looked around. The receptionist, another agent walking by. No one said a word. They'd seen this movie before. "I'd still like to see what you've got," I said calmly. He exhaled loudly and reached for a stack of pamphlets. "Well, we do have some fixer-uppers that might be more in your range." He handed me a crumpled flyer with a house that looked half burned down. I stared at it. Then at him. "You sure this is the best you've got?" He shrugged. "Hey, I'm just being realistic. Not everyone's ready for prime real estate, you know?" That was it. The way he said it, the smirk, the condescension. He didn't just think I couldn't afford it. He thought I didn't deserve it. And at that moment, I decided something. I wasn't going to just buy a house. I was going to buy this company. I took the flyer, nodded, and said, "Thanks, I'll think about it." He gave me that fake smile people give when they think they've won. "Sure thing. Come back when you're ready, if the market doesn't leave you behind." I walked out without another word, but inside I was fire. He had no idea who I was. I wasn't some guy just browsing. I was Malik Johnson, founder and CEO of Havenston Capital Group and that real estate firm he worked at. My company just acquired it last week. I hadn't made it public yet. I wanted to walk in as a mystery man, see how the culture really worked, and now I knew. The emails had already been signed. The transition would be announced at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I pulled out my phone, dialed my assistant. "Jasmine? Flag a name for HR. Derek. Wears a blue suit, thinks he owns the lobby. We're going to have a little chat tomorrow." She chuckled. "Want me to send the firing papers?" "No," I said, smiling to myself. "I want him to see me first." I stood at the corner of the street, staring back at the building. He thought I was just another guy trying to reach for something I couldn't have tomorrow. He'd realize I owned everything he was standing on. The next morning, the sky was clear. The city felt still, like it knew something big was about to happen. I pulled up in a charcoal black Mercedes, freshly detailed, humming like a whisper. My suit was tailored navy, silk tie, polished shoes. The kind of presence that didn't have to say a word to command attention. I stepped out, took a deep breath, and walked through the glass doors of Sterling and Ridge Realty. This time, they didn't ignore me. "Good morning, sir," said the receptionist. Suddenly all smiles. I nodded politely. "Morning." A young associate I hadn't seen before came rushing up. "Mr. Johnson, we weren't expecting you until the press event." I smiled. I like surprises. Her eyes flickered with respect, and maybe a little fear. I looked around, and there he was, Derek, standing by the coffee machine, laughing with two colleagues. wearing the same smug expression, like he still ran the place. He hadn't seen me yet. I turned to the associate. "Can you gather the senior staff in the main conference room?" She nodded and hurried off. I made my way down the hall. Slowly, deliberately, my footsteps echoed like a countdown. When I reached the glass doors, I turned to see Derek finally glance my way. His eyes narrowed, then widened. Recognition, followed by confusion, followed by a flicker of fear. I gave him the smallest of nods and walked into the conference room, where everything was about to change. The room filled quickly. Managers, top agents, regional directors, everyone adjusting their ties, checking their phones, trying to look important. Derek walked in last. He stayed near the back, arms crossed. His eyes flicked toward me, confused, uncertain, but still trying to look in control. The regional director stood up to speak. "Morning, everyone. We have a very special announcement today." He turned toward me. "Please welcome our new majority stakeholder and CEO, Mr. Malik Johnson." The room shifted. Silence, then a wave of murmurs. I could see the mental math in every face. "Wait, him? From yesterday? But he—" I stepped forward slowly. "Thank you," I began. My voice was calm, deep, controlled. "Before we move forward, with exciting changes at Sterling and Ridge, I'd like to speak, briefly, about culture." I turned to face the room, eyes locked on mine. Culture isn't about mission statements on the wall. It's not about how we act when the cameras are on or when clients are holding a check. I paused. It's about how we treat people when we think they're nobody. Derek shifted in his chair. His jaw clenched. "Yesterday, I came in as a buyer, quiet, unannounced. No one knew my name, no title, no entourage." My gaze moved slowly, until it met Derek's, and what I experienced was condescension, judgment, disrespect. I let the silence hang. A pin could have dropped. Then I smiled, just a little. Fortunately, I believe in second chances, but I also believe in accountability. I turned to the regional director. "Let's start with some restructuring. Effective immediately." Derek's face went pale. He finally realized his time was up. Derek stood up. "Wait, Mr. Johnson, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding." His voice trembled, but he tried to hold on to that same fake charm. I tilted my head. "Misunderstanding?" "Yeah," he chuckled nervously. I didn't recognize you yesterday. I was just doing my job. You know how it is, screening clients, making sure they qualify." The room watched in dead silence. I walked slowly toward him, each step deliberate. "So let me get this straight," I said, voice steady. "You assumed, based on nothing but appearance, that I didn't belong, that I wasn't worthy of your time, that I should go further south." Derek's eyes darted around, searching for backup. None came. "Look, man," he said, voice cracking, "I didn't mean anything by it." I stopped a few feet in front of him, looked him straight in the eyes. "You did. That's the problem." I turned to the rest of the room. "This company is about to change, starting today. We will lead with inclusion, integrity, and excellence, or we will not lead at all." I looked back at Derek. "And you, Derek, will not be leading anything." His jaw dropped. You're firing me?" "No." I leaned in, just slightly. "I'm releasing you from a position you clearly never deserved in the first place." The regional director walked up, folder in hand. "We'll have security escort you out." Derek looked around, stunned. No one spoke. No one moved except for me, as I turned my back on him and walked toward a new beginning. The door clicked shut behind Derek. No one clapped. No one even breathed. Just silence. I turned back to the team. "Let me be clear," I said, voice calm but razor-sharp. "What happened yesterday wasn't just one bad apple. It was a symptom, a reflection of something deeper." I scanned the room. Slowly, some looked ashamed, others looked relieved, and a few still uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is where growth starts. There are two kinds of people in this company, I said. Those who believe in service and those who believe in status. I let the words hang for a beat, and I'm only keeping one of those. A younger agent near the window raised her hand timidly. Mr. Johnson. Malik, I said with a nod. Right, Malik. I just want to say thank you. I saw what Derek did yesterday and I didn't speak up. I should have. I met her eyes. Your silence was loud. But this? I gestured toward her. This is a start. She nodded. You're not the only one we're keeping, I said. Gently, that broke the tension. A few smiles crept in, shoulders eased, the air started to shift. This isn't just a company anymore, I continued. It's a vision, one where no one has to prove they deserve respect. A pause. Now. Who's ready to rebuild something real? That afternoon we cleared the conference room, pulled down the old mission statement, tore off the plastic gold letters from the wall. Excellence, prestige, power. No wonder the culture was rotten, I muttered. I turned to the leadership. Team, we're not here to sell power, we're here to serve people. One of the senior agents raised a skeptical eyebrow. You really think we can flip this place around? We've had years of the same system, I nodded. Exactly. That's why we're not just flipping it, we're rebuilding it. I grabbed a marker and walked up to the whiteboard. Step 1, cultural audit. We evaluate every agent, not just on performance, but on attitude, empathy, and ethics. Step 2, community first. We open access to underserved buyers, partner with local non-profits, offer first-time buyer workshops, led by people who look like the communities we serve. Step 3, leadership rotation. No more gatekeeping. Agents will shadow executive roles to understand leadership from the inside. I paused. This isn't charity, it's good business, because when people feel respected, they trust you. And when they trust you, they buy, they refer, they return. A silence followed, not out of fear this time, but processing. Then one voice. I'm in. Another. Same here. A third. Let's make it happen. The energy shifted again. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was a movement. 2 days later, the emails started rolling in. Angry agents, former clients, even local competitors. Subject lines like, "Why are you turning this into a political agenda? I didn't sign up to work at a charity. This isn't what Sterling and Ridge stood for." I sat in my office, reading each message carefully, calm, focused. Then came the call. "Malik," said the voice on the other end. "It's Raymond, board member, investor, and frankly, a little concerned." I leaned back. "I'm listening." "You're making a lot of waves, reassigning staff, changing branding, giving workshops to low-income buyers." He chuckled. But there was no warmth. "This isn't a community center. It's a luxury firm. We have a reputation to protect." I let the silence stretch, then replied slowly, "Raymond, if our reputation depends on exclusion, then it's a reputation I'm proud to destroy." He didn't laugh this time. "Just be careful," he warned. "You start shaking too. Many pillars, eventually the whole house comes down." I smiled to myself. Maybe it needs to. I hung up, turned to the window, watched the skyline, strong, still, daring. Let them push back. I didn't come this far to play it safe. I came to build something that mattered. That Friday, we held our first press conference. Media crews, local news, real estate blogs. Everyone wanted to hear from the Black CEO shaking up luxury real estate. I stood in front of the branded backdrop, but not the old logo, our new. One sleek, minimal, strong. Behind me stood the new leadership team, diverse, energized, unified. I stepped up to the mic, cleared my throat. Sterling and Ridge is no longer in the business of judging who looks like they belong in a neighborhood. Cameras flashed. We're in the business of helping everyone find a place to call home, with dignity, fairness, and respect. A few reporters scribbled. One raised her hand. Mr. Johnson, some agents say you're politicizing the company, that you're turning luxury real estate into social reform. I nodded. You can call it what you want, but I call it doing the right thing. Another voice from the back. Is it true an agent was fired for racial profiling? I paused. Yes. Gasps. Murmurs. Not because he made a mistake, but because he represented a mindset we will no longer tolerate here. I scanned the crowd. This company isn't just about selling homes, it's about changing the story for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. The room went still. Then, one by one, they began to clap. Soft at first, then louder. Standing ovation, and just as I stepped down from the podium, my phone buzzed, a text from Jasmine. You're trending. National news just picked it up. You've gone viral. The next morning, my inbox exploded. News anchors quoting me, real estate podcasts dissecting every word. Black CEO brings real change to old money firm. Discrimination has a price, and this CEO just collected. I was everywhere. Then came the email, subject line, long time Malik. My heart stuttered for just a second. No way. I opened it. From Edward V. Langston. You probably don't remember me, but I remember you. You were the intern who sat outside my office 15 years ago, taking notes nobody asked for, the one who came in early, stayed late, got coffee you weren't even thanked for. Back then, I said you'd never make it in real estate, not because of your work ethic, but because you didn't look like the people who own buildings. I was wrong. Now you're the name on the building. So here I am, hat in hand. My firm's struggling. You have what I need. Let's talk. Edward Langston. The man who once told me I should consider leasing, not leading. Now he was crawling back. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. Life had just come full circle, and now I held the pen. I agreed to meet Edward, not out of curiosity, not out of pity, but because sometimes closure doesn't come in silence. It comes face to face. We met at a rooftop bar in Midtown, the same kind of place I used to get turned away from. Too casual, not the right crowd. Now they greeted me by name. Edward was already there, same slick hair, expensive blazer, but he looked older, smaller. He stood up when I approached, forced a smile. Malik, you look powerful. I sat. And you look nervous. He chuckled, but his eyes flinched. Listen, I won't pretend I didn't make mistakes. I was arrogant, short-sighted. I said nothing. Just let him sit in the silence. My firm's bleeding clients. The market's shifting, and frankly, you've become a symbol of something bigger than sales. He leaned in. If we merge, we both win. I raised an eyebrow. You once said I didn't have the face for real estate leadership. Now you want my name on your door? He looked away. That was a different time. I leaned back, calm, unshaken. No, Edward, it was the same time. You just didn't think it would ever catch up to you. He stayed quiet. I let that sink. And then I reached for my drink. You're not here because you believe in me. You're here because I have leverage. I stood. And let me be clear, I don't want your company. His mouth opened slightly, unsure. I leaned in. Voice low. I want you to watch what it looks like when someone you underestimated changes. The entire industry without you. I walked away, he didn't follow, and I never looked back. Monday morning came with a storm, not from the sky and from the boardroom. Jasmine walked in, eyes wide. They're calling an emergency meeting, she said. Some of the old money investors. They're not happy. I nodded. Of course. They're not. The conference room was full. Half of them had never returned my calls before. Now they were all here, breathing heavy, clenching their pens like daggers. One stood up before I sat down. Philip Rawlins, grey suit, country club tan. Malik, he said, voice clipped. We've supported your vision, quietly. But this is affecting the numbers. Which numbers, I asked. The ones that matter. Matter to whom, I replied. He blinked. Look, we're hearing talk, clients walking, long-time partners pulling back, and now this public beef with Langston. I crossed my arms. That wasn't beef. That was accountability. Another investor jumped in. Malik, we're businessmen, not activists. My patience cracked. You think equity is activism? You think dignity is optional? The room stiffened. Let me remind you, I said, voice rising just enough. It's because of the attention we're getting that new buyers are walking through our doors. Yes, some old money is stepping back, but new money is stepping in. And they look like the future. I leaned forward. Now you need to decide, are you investing in a brand that reflects the past, or one that builds the future? Silence. Then one investor nodded slowly. Another followed. Not everyone, but enough. I stood. Then we're done here. As I walked out, Jasmine met me with a slow grin. You're not just building a company, she said. You're building a revolution. It started with a ping, then another, then D10. Jasmine rushed into my office, her phone in hand. Malik, we've got a problem. She turned the screen toward me. A video, title. Exposed. The truth about the new CEO of Sterling and Ridge. My photo. My voice. A freeze frame of me walking out on Edward Langston, clickbait, obviously. But it had already hit 2 million views. I tapped play. The footage was grainy, probably taken by someone at the rooftop bar. It spliced in dramatic music, twisted my words, even flashed headlines out of context. Malik Johnson, the CEO who rejects forgiveness, anti-wealth, anti-tradition, anti-white. What? My stomach twisted. The comment section was a war zone. Typical race-baiting drama. He's going to ruin that company. Funny how inclusion means excluding successful people now. Finally someone calling out his ego, but buried in the noise. No, he's doing what none of you ever had the guts to do. Keep going, Malik. About time someone cleaned house. I leaned back, taking a breath. This was the cost of visibility. You don't get to change the world quietly. What do you want to do? Jasmine asked, eyes searching mine. I paused, then stood up, walked to the window. I want to tell them the truth. All of it? I turned to her, especially the parts they're afraid to hear. We cleared out the studio on the 12th floor. No fancy lighting, no script, just one camera, one chair, one truth. Jasmine stood behind the lens. Rolling. I leaned forward, hands clasped, heart steady. My name is Malik Johnson. Pause. And, yes, I walked away from a man who once told me I'd never make it. Another pause. Let it breathe, but not out of revenge, not out of ego. I walked away because I no longer needed his approval to know my worth. I looked straight down the barrel of the camera. There's a video going around, one that twists my words, that paints me as a man full of anger, division, even hate. I shook my head. Let me be clear. I don't hate anyone, but I won't. Apologize for standing up to a system that silences people who look like me. My voice deepened, not with rage, but with resolve. When I walked into Sterling and Ridge that day, I wasn't a CEO. I was just a black man in a nice coat. And I was told with a smile to look somewhere else. That's the truth. And I won't bury it so that others can stay comfortable. I leaned back. If that makes me controversial, so be it. I stood slowly. I didn't come here to blend in. I came here to build something better. Beat. And I'm just getting started. Jasmine hit stop. She looked at me, eyes shining. That's the one, she whispered. We uploaded the video that night. By morning, it had hit 5 million views. The video exploded. 10 million views. National news picked it up. Talk shows dissected every line. A CEO who speaks like a poet. One of the most powerful business monologues in years. But not all the attention was praise. Hate mail doubled. Threats flooded in. You're dividing the industry. Stick to selling houses, not making speeches. We know where your office is. Jasmine insisted we hire private security. I agreed, reluctantly. You don't get to build something real I told her, without stepping on the toes of people who've been standing in the wrong place too long. But in the chaos, something unexpected happened. Emails started pouring in, not from enemies but from strangers. A retired teacher in Georgia. I've never owned a home. After your video, I believe I can. A young white intern in Boston. I didn't realize what privilege looked like until you showed me. A real estate agent from Houston. We just changed our buyer intake process. Your story opened our eyes. Even our agents, the ones who stayed, began speaking differently. Observing differently. One of them approached me in the hallway. I joined this firm to make money, he said, but now I think I'm here to make a mark. That's when I knew. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about legacy. And legacy isn't what you build for yourself. It's what you leave standing when you're gone. The invitation came in gold foil, embossed letters, heavy stock, the Avalon Real Estate Summit, the most elite gathering in the industry, where deals worth billions are whispered over champagne, where men like Edward Langston once stood center stage, and men like me were never even on the guest list, but this time my name wasn't just on the list, it was the headliner. I stepped into the ballroom in a sharp black suit, custom fit, collar crisp. Hundreds of eyes turned, some curious, some threatened, and a few trying hard not to clap. The host, a silver-haired mogul named Curtis Bear, welcomed me to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man who's challenging how this industry looks, and who it's for Mr. Malik Johnson. Applause. Not loud, not eager, but enough. I took the stage. The lights were hot. The room was colder. I scanned the audience and saw them: Edward, Raymond, Philip Rawlins, the ghosts of my past, and the gatekeepers of this world. I leaned into the mic. I used to sit in the back of rooms like this. I took notes, no one asked for. I poured coffee, no one drank. I was invisible. I stepped forward, not because I lacked knowledge, not because I lacked hustle, but because I lacked the right look. Murmurs. Now I stand here, not to shame the past, but to demand a better future. A few people leaned forward. Some leaned back. A future where anyone, regardless of background, can walk into a room and not have to prove they deserve to be there. I paused. If that scares you, good. Because growth never comes from comfort. The applause started. Slow, then spread. Not everyone, but enough to feel it. After the speech, a young black agent approached me. Mr. Johnson, I used to hide who I was to survive in this business. After today, I think I'm ready to thrive. I shook his hand, looked him in the eye, then that stage was worth it. 3 days after the summit, the vibe in the office changed. Quiet glances, closed-door meetings, a shift in the energy. Jasmine burst into my office, laptop open, face pale. You need to see this. Right now. She placed the screen in front. Of me, a leaked document. Confidential internal memo. Proposed buyout of Sterling and Ridge Holdings. My name wasn't on it, but I recognized the signatures. Philip Rawlins, Raymond Ellis, Edward Langston. What the hell? They're trying to take the company back, Jasmine whispered. I scanned the lines. Their plan was to form a holding group, leverage old investor networks, and pressure the board into ousting me, claiming instability under current leadership. My heart pounded, not from fear, from fire. They couldn't stop the movement in public, I said slowly. So now they're crawling in the dark. Jasmine nodded. You still have the majority share, but they're betting some investors will fold under pressure. I stood up. Then it's time to remind them who this company belongs to. She raised an eyebrow. You want to go to war? I looked her dead in the eye. No, I said. I want to go louder. I reached for my phone, dialed a contact I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey, Rob, I need a favor, and I need your stage. Jasmine tilted her head. Who's Rob? I gave her a grin. The biggest real estate podcast host in the country. 20 million listeners. Tomorrow, we burn the backroom down. The mic was hot. The red light blinked. I sat across from Rob Carter, host of The Closing Table, the biggest real estate podcast in the country. His voice boomed through the intro. Today, we're talking to the most disruptive name in real estate. Malik Johnson. Love him or hate him, you can't ignore him. I leaned into the mic, calm, focused. Let's skip the small talk, I said, because what I'm about to say might make some people very uncomfortable. Rob raised his eyebrows. Go on. I took a breath. There is a movement underway, one that's challenging the old guard and making space for people who've been pushed out of rooms like this for decades. I paused, and now those same gatekeepers, the ones who laughed when I sat in silence outside their offices, they're trying to take it all back. Silence. Rob leaned forward. You're saying there's a coordinated effort to remove you? I'm saying, I replied, that when people with power feel threatened, they don't attack the message. They try to erase the messenger. I pulled out a printed copy of the leaked memo. This was sent to several investors in secret, an attempted buyout led by men who believe leadership only wears one face. Rob's jaw dropped. This is real? Real as every slammed door I've ever walked through, real as the threat to anyone who dares to change the rules. Rob looked into the camera. You heard it here first. I leaned in one last time. Let them come. I'm not backing down. I didn't build this company to hand it over the second it made the right people nervous. I built it for the next. Kids sitting outside a glass office, wondering if they'll ever belong, and I won't stop until they walk in like they own the place. The episode dropped within the hour. By nightfall, the internet was on fire. The next morning the boardroom was packed, every seat filled, every eye on me. I knew what this was. The last play, the final move. Edward Langston, Raymond Ellis, Philip Rawlins, all seated together. Cool suits, cold eyes. They didn't come to talk. They came to take back the table. The board chair cleared her throat. Mr. Johnson, there's been a motion presented to challenge your leadership. Edward stood. Malik, you've had your moment, but the brand is bleeding and leadership isn't about being loud, it's about being right. I smiled, calm. And yet, you were wrong. About me. About what this company could be. Philip chimed in. Let's put it to a vote. The room decides. The chair nodded one by one. Board members raised hands, some for them, some for me. The final count came down to the last vote, a quiet woman named Claire, the longest-serving member. She looked at me. My son showed me your podcast, she said softly. He's 16, said it was the first time he saw someone who looked like him and sounded like power. She turned to the table. I vote. We stay with Malik. The room shifted. The chair leaned forward. Motion denied. Leadership remains intact. Edward slammed his folder shut. This isn't over. I looked at him. Calm, steady. No, Edward. For you it is. He stormed out. The others followed. I turned back to the room. This company doesn't belong to fear anymore. It belongs to the future. That afternoon, we installed a new plaque in the office lobby. Just 4 words, etched in glass. Everyone deserves a door. Weeks passed. The business grew. The clients grew. But what mattered most was the day I saw a young black kid, maybe 19, walk into the lobby. Nervous, alone, holding a resume. I saw the way he looked around. Like he didn't know if he belonged. I stood, walked over, held out my hand. You're right on time, I said. Come on in. And this time, the door stayed open.